watching me from the depths below, a haunted grave where shadows grow. Deadpit is watching.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to a Dead Pit First, Uncle Bill. This is the debut edition, episode number 1 of a show that you created. So you talk about it.
Well, I thought what we would do, you see, is we would take a whole bunch of fucking movies, kind of like what we used to do back in the day, and we would create Dead Pit is Watching, where we just reviewed all of the films that we've gotten in for a specific period of time and see how that goes, you know.
Well, and it'll cut down on, we're doing a lot of singular reviews, so it'll definitely cut down on those. And, you know, we'll still do some special reviews of movies from time to time. But this way we can get through some of these movies because we're getting more and more of them, especially this time of year. And I think we're taking a look at a total of 5 different releases on the show today. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in, Uncle Bill. I know we have a couple of releases from Kino Lorber. I've got one, you've got one. Who wants to go first?
You go first.
Kino Lorber, we have a pretty good relationship with those guys, and they've released, and they are continuing to release throughout the month of October too. Tons of stuff coming out. And this was, I think, earlier, may have been late in September is when this came out, or early October. I don't know. But I saw this and read the premise of it. I'd never seen it before or anything. And I was curious by this. And I got to say, Uncle Bill, I was highly, highly impressed with this thing. Now, it's known by 2 different names. I think the U.S. version of the movie is known as Night of the Eagle, which, damn, I probably wouldn't have even requested it if it was under that name.
That's pretty horrible, actually.
But this one right here is it's 2 different cuts of the movie. So it has the UK cut as well. And the UK cut has a much cooler, more memorable name. Burn. Witch. Burn.
That's such a killer name.
From 1962, American International Pictures release. And, you know, directed by Sidney Hayers, starring Janet Blair, Peter Wingard, Margaret Johnston. This is an interesting one because black and white, 1962. You know, the movie follows Peter Wingard's character. He's a college professor, Norman Taylor, who recently, now what would you do in this situation, Uncle Bill? Recently discovered that his wife, played by Janet Blair, is practicing witchcraft at home, right? This is 1962 now. This is like Leave It to Beaver era. And finds all kinds of artifacts and amulets and books and all kinds of weird witchcraft mumbo jumbo.
So what you're basically saying is that she's an angel witch. She's an angel witch.
Or she could be a ooh, ooh, witchy woman. She's got the moon in her eye.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a note there at the end.
So,
if I found out somebody was practicing occult witchery in my house, they'd be burned at the stake immediately. You got to burn them.
He was not happy.
No.
You know.
So this is 62, right? So let's see. Black Sunday came out in 60?
I think
right?
so.
So is it like a riff on that movie or is it like something else?
Not necessarily. It's something I'm not super familiar with this time period, but it's something, you know, a little bit different, I think, because, you know, Norman sees this and kind of takes it well, I guess, as well as anybody can take it. He's just like, look here, woman, you're going to get rid of all these artifacts. We're going to burn them in the fire and get rid of all of them, right?
Yeah.
And she's playing with him. Janet Blair is like, hey, you know, I think that these spells and everything are helping our family. They're helping your success. at the university or whatever, and it turns out that she was kind of true. So things kind of start to fall apart for Norman. Norman. And he will soon find out that there's more than just his wife out there practicing witchcraft. There's some that are practicing to spot him against their family and everything. So it puts him in danger. There's this crazy scene. Now, the US version of this, Night of the Eagle, and it makes a little bit of sense towards the end of the movie. There's a crazy fucking scene where a real eagle, like one of those big son of a bitches, dives towards Norman. And the way that they didn't have special effects back then, Uncle Bill.
Had these real eagle.
They had a real eagle, and they had tied a stake to the back of that actor so it would swoop. I would be scared to death because, like, some of those eagles have like 9-foot wingspans, right? Big son of a bitches.
Yeah, I mean,
big sharp talons.
Their talons are like razor sharp too. So if they miss that, they're gonna rip your damn shoulder off. So that's yeah. I mean, that's how they had to do that. That's what I do love about watching movies from that era. Is like everything you see, you know, they had to practically do it.
Yeah. So Burn Witch Burn is freaking awesome, says Saturn Video. It is written by Charles Beaumont and Richard Matheson, Twilight Zone fame. Dude, I was very, very impressed with this. I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't heard anything about it. It was just kind of a blind watch for me. Yeah. And this one is killer, guys. I think Kino has been killing it all year. And this one has some extra features on it as well. This is part of their Kino Lorber Studio Classics line. And they do have 2 separate audio commentaries. One with novelist and critic Tim Lucas, who does a lot of stuff for a lot of different companies. Another with screenwriter Richard Matheson, Twilight Zone's own. And there's an interview with actor Peter Wingard. This was, I think he had passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, and this was shortly before he passed away. And theatrical trailers. So yeah, and it also, you get the original UK artwork there, which is brutal and badass. And you also get the US artwork, which is pretty cool too, Night of the Eagle. And it has a reversible art. Well, this is technically the reversible artwork. But, yeah, man, I was very impressed with this one.
Is there a movie that you would like say that it reminded you of?
Of that era, I can't think of, I know, speaking of which, Peter Wingard was also in The Innocents. He is the guy that plays the spooky ghost dude in it or whatever, just a couple of years before this. And it's filmed kind of like that. I think it was made in Britain. Yeah. I mean, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that it reminds me of, but I will say I was highly impressed with it, and I can definitely recommend everybody that if you're into Twilight Zone's a good, I mean, maybe like a feature length Twilight Zone episode be a good way to describe it. It looks kind of like that. Great acting and everything. Crazy shot with the eagle at the end of the movie. But yeah, that is Burn Witch Burn. It recently came out from Kino Lorber.
I mean, I'm going to say right now, like, my opinion is that Kino is kind of the unsung hero of releasing companies. Like, I think that line, the cult line, the Kino cult line, has probably been my favorite overall line. Like, just for the amount of stuff they've come out with and how killer it all is. Like,
I don't know why they're choosing, like, this is just a standard Kino Lorber Studio Classics. I think the one that you've got, is it a cult one or is it a Studio Classics? Like, they're doing those
Studio Classics too. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could fall into either one is the weird thing. You're right. Like, I mean, this could easily be a cult film, and probably is, to be honest. The one I want to be talking about is completely different than that. And like it took me a couple of times to get through this movie because it's like incredibly slow. in the beginning, but like once you get to what the payoff of the movie is, it's actually amazing. I just wasn't a huge fan of the first half of the movie because it's a lot of build up and you get to learn like a lot about the characters. And I found the two main characters to be incredibly annoying. But anyway, like this is Kino's Rolling Vengeance, which
That's a
is
killer cover.
it is. It's exactly what you would think it is too, by the way. So it's like a monster truck exploitation film. So the plot of this movie is actually kind of hilarious, which is you've got Ned Beatty and you got Don Michael Paul, who Don Michael Paul is the star. I've never heard of him in anything else.
That sounds like one of Rambo's favorites.
Yeah. And I feel like that Rambo knows a lot about Don Michael Paul that we don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about like this town where these like business owners have these shithead sons who are drunk all the time. And they're always like driving around drunk in this big, like fucking trucks and things like there's a lot of like random just truck sequences and sequences of just like people getting run off the road and things like that, just to kind of set this up. And so eventually, exactly like what you think is going to happen happens. They're driving drunk and they end up killing like a couple of people from his family, right? Like they end up killing him. I think it's like the mom and maybe like the siblings too. And so, you know, that's where I actually thought that the movie would begin, but it's not, because that's not enough. They take him to trial, all like, you know, Walking Tall and stuff like that. But of course they get off because like they got all this money and stuff. And then eventually, like they end up gang raping the guy's girlfriend. So that's what sets him off. And he builds a monster truck that has, and I shit you not, this may be one of the like greatest.
It's a monster truck with vengeance.
It's like a monster truck that has a flamethrower built into it. It has like spikes and shit built into it. It's got like a drill and metal cutter that's mounted onto it. Like, you know, those metal cutters that's like in the Dawn of the Dead remake kind of thing.
Did they have a montage as he was putting this stuff on? Okay.
They did. Yeah, of course. Like, so he runs like this junkyard, this scrapyard or whatever. And it shows him like piecing together all this thing on this giant truck and everything till he turns it into what is basically like a death machine. What's really weird about this too is that like there was actually a couple of guys in real life that did this not too long ago either. Like one guy built like this almost indestructible tank like thing and then drove it through this neighborhood because he was pissed off at the city council and like destroyed all these buildings and everything. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. And that's what this movie reminded me of. It's basically the same thing, but he is just like going and killing all these people that had anything to do with like the deaths and the grapes and things like that. So it's exactly
so it's a revenge movie with, you know, some big wheels.
It's
insanity.
It's an exploitation film with a monster truck that's like a death machine.
Man, I was curious about this movie, so I'm looking it up here on IMDb. Yeah. The director, Stephen Hilliard Stern, has a ton of credits for a bunch of shit that I have no idea what it is. The only thing that I recognize on here, and this is hilarious, and I didn't even know this exists, now I'm going to have to look on YouTube. The TV movie Still the Beaver from 1983. It's a Leave It to Beaver movie, a reunion movie. But everything else, I have no idea what any of this is. He's done a lot of TV movies, it looks like, and TV shows. So.
Well, here's you a fun fact about Don Michael Paul, the star of this film. The only other notable thing that I could find about him was that he wrote the screenplay for Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Well, that's where he made his money.
And he directed Lake Placid, the final chapter, in 2012, and Tremors 5 Bloodlines.
Well, he's had successful career since then.
Yeah.
This is what kicked it off.
Things are really going really well for Don Michael Paul.
Yeah.
But his his name in this movie is it's so killer. Big Joe Rosso.
Big Joe Rosso.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the thing that's interesting though to me, Kino Lorber, the Studio Classics, the Kino Cult, they release this stuff, and a lot of the times it's movies that may not deserve special editions, but they go all out with it, with the transfers. Honestly, there's a fan of every movie that's out there. Somebody likes everything, you know. So I love the fact that they're giving this special edition treatment, you know, with the slip cover, a few special features on there, remastering the transfer and everything. And you got that with Rolling Vengeance as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Cool thing about this, though, you got an audio commentary, because this is a Canucksploitation film. With Canucksploitation.com.
Of course.
And film historian Jason Pachonsky. An interview with the actor Lawrence Dane. And also
Larry Dane, baby.
I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but like this is one of the few movies I can remember, maybe there's more, where Ned Beatty actually plays the heel. So he's like the lead villain in this movie too.
He was kind of the heel in Superman. He was like the sidekick to the heel.
Yeah, he's like the goofy, he was a heel though. I'll give you that. So, I mean, if you like stuff like that, it's like I said, it's like exactly what you think it is.
Next up, we have a couple of more titles. These are DVDs, Uncle Bill. We'll go through these first when we got a big coup de grace at the ends. So these were randomly sent from Wild Eye Releasing. Now, again, I said DVD. It's 2024, but they're sending DVDs because I don't think these are out on anything else. From director, both of these are from the same director, Japanese cult filmmaker, the guy that brought us Phone of the Dead. Everyone knows that. Phone of the Dead. Yu Nakamoto. And I think these come out back in August, and we've been sitting on them for a while, but we had to finally talk about these, Uncle Bill. Both of them for 2019. Very brief movies. This one was 52 minutes, and I'll go ahead and get started with Ikenie Man. Ikenie Man. All right. So essentially what Ikenie Man is a comedy slasher, but it's with very odd, and I've never understood Japanese humor. So there's been a few of these Japanese horror comedies that we've looked at over the years that I'm not being uptight. I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand the comedy over there. It's a little bit different, but
different is one word for it. Yeah.
The whole plot of this, when you've got a group of young filmmakers filming a 80s style slasher movie, the star is Ikenie Man, pretty much a poor man's Tater Sack Jason. He has the tater sack, the overalls, and the machete. And it kind of goes from there. I mean, they're filming a slasher movie, and of course there's a real killer that comes along, and there's lots of stupidity and humor along the way. Now, I know that some people may enjoy this, but at 52 minutes, this felt super long. Like, and again, it may have to do with me not really understanding the culture over there and the comedy and all that. Now it is, like I said, Japanese. Both of these films, Ikenie Man and the one Uncle Bill's about to talk about, came out 2019 from the same director, Yu Nakamoto.
Well, the weird thing is the film you're describing is almost exactly the same film as the one that I got. I'm not kidding. It's about like a low budget film crew that's filming in an abandoned warehouse, and this fucking.
Well, these kids were in the woods in this one.
When this
so
one, they're in a
weren't in
warehouse and they got to come directly in conflict with Harawata Man, which is intestines man, apparently.
If you just glance at that, yeah, you're thinking
Japanese.
it says something about Hulkamania, but
I swear to God, they use that font. Look at it. Hulkamania rules.
this almost looks like the same font too. Ikenie Man,
So
Man.
everything that you said applies to this film as well, though. Like, I was watching it, and nothing really happens in the first 30 minutes of it, which is kind of weird because it's only a 50-minute long movie. But it's just a bunch of like Asian people talking and laughing and dumb jokes and tripping and stuff. I'm not kidding. They're tripping and shit and like laughing about it. Like, that's the kind of comedy and stuff that's in this movie. And then all of a sudden, this guy shows up out of nowhere. And he starts like pulling people's intestines out and chopping them up and stuff like that. But you don't really see that much of anything. And the shit you do see is like really, really bad. Like, the blood is awful. The special effects are very like early 2000s. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but that's what it reminded me of.
It's this one right here is filmed like it's from that era too. Like, I don't know what kind of cameras they used, but it looks very much like those DVD tapes that we used back in the day for filming some of the on the road videos and stuff.
I just can't. I can't watch movies like that for some reason. Like, when it looks like that, it just automatically makes me just tune out. And like, I try really hard with this one, but it's like, man, there ain't nothing to this.
I mean, I gave it a shot, and the only reason I kind of wanted to watch it is because it is in the vein of 80s slasher movies. Right. And Japanese people, like, they go all out sometimes when it comes to gore and everything, but you really don't have any of that with this movie for sure. And at 52 minutes, it does feel, even at that length, it's a chore to get through. Wild Eye Releasing, we don't review a whole lot of their stuff anymore. They've been around forever. Yeah, they have both of these out, and they are on DVD. I at least appreciate them, you know, not trying to
appreciate them sticking around for this long
to fool anybody though, and releasing it on. They could have just as easily released something like this on Blu-ray, which, you know, would probably be even worse. It'd be even more expensive. These are cheap movies. I think you could get them for like $10 a piece on online. And they're not really worth much more than that, to be honest with you. If this sounds like something that you're into, you can check it out. I think it's on Amazon. You can go to MVD Shop. And Ikenie Man and Harawata Man. Yeah, this is going pretty good, Uncle Bill. I like the way this. We've already got 4 reviews out of the way.
This is the format.
DEADPIT is watching, but this next one, you want to hype this one up because this one is pretty damn huge.
Trying to remember when this was first really talked about, but I'm thinking we're talking about 2021 was the first time that I remember this being talked about. And then through like a period of years, and then there was some sort of like issues. There was issues with like some of the what do you call that? The process of restoring it and things like that.
Color grading
and stuff like that. And then there were some other issues too. So it took years for this to finally come out. And only here recently did we get like updates where it was like, you know, it's finally really going to happen. And yeah, it's getting ready to drop. And everybody was losing their minds. So the question is, though, is it worth it now? Because we're talking about the recent second sight release of the Hitcher.
Yeah. And there were some questions because I think there was at least one person that was given this, they were giving it a hard time for whatever reason. And after I watched this thing, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Right.
Well, there's one dude that was somebody brought up on the message board, and he's apparently notorious for like just taking the piss on releases and things like that. I swear to God, as I'm sitting here, I do not understand how you could watch this movie with this transfer and be like, this is not good, or this is not like what they, intended or whatever. First of all, it was supervised by the fucking director. Second of all, like, they used the negatives and everything from the 35 millimeter to do this. Like, I do not understand it, man. Like, this movie looks amazing. There's no.
Yeah. It looks not only amazing, it looks astonishing that this is a movie that is close to 40 years old. And they took their time with it. Second Sight Films, bar none, man. They're the best at what they do. I mean, they probably don't release the most, but the stuff that they release is all super, super fantastic. Extra material, books, art cards. They even included a screenplay in this set here. They went all out, and there's nobody that can compete in 2024 with Second Sight Films. This Hitcher release, we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but we need to talk about the movie too, because oddly enough, Uncle Bill, we have never gave this movie a proper review because
it's never been on anything really. Like,
the DVD that HBO came out with 25 years ago, right? Long before we started the DEADPIT show even, which we've been around a long time. But finally, there's a release this, and here in the US, they're doing like a half-ass Warner Brothers release. If you're just a casual fan, it's okay. Pick that up. If you're a mega fan of The Hitcher, you've got to pick this. This is the one that you want. It is absolutely stacked with special features. But talking about the movie, though, it begins, and this is just, it's a perfect movie. This is one of those perfect films. It begins on a cold, rainy night, and young C. Thomas Howell, Jim Halsey, his character's name, very young in this. I don't know how old he was, but he looks extremely young, probably in his early 20s.
Early 20s, yeah.
He's driving across country to deliver a vehicle, and he needs some company, Uncle Bill. It's raining. He needs somebody to keep him awake, and man, he picked a person to keep him awake.
Yeah.
Picks up this hitchhiker by the name of John Ryder. I think he said as soon as he picked him up, "Oh, my mom always warned me to not pick up hitchhikers." And I say this every time I watch the movie. I was like, well, you should listen to your mom.
From the very first scene in this movie where you see Rutger Hauer, like, it's set up so perfectly because he's fucking with him from the very first scene.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to have a conversation with him. C. Thomas Howell is, like, when he picks him up, and he's like, "Hey, where you going?" and all this stuff. He's like, he won't answer him, and then he's just like, "You got to smoke?" And then he keeps asking him, like, "Where are you going? Like, where am I dropping you off at?" and all this stuff. And he keeps, like, just giving him, like, wrong answers and fucking with him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he plays it is so perfect. It's so insanely perfect too.
Yeah.
Because it's almost as if he's, like, feeling him out, like, to see what kind of person that he is.
Right. And the John Ryder character is so, like, he's just so evil and so sadistic. Probably one of the most evil, realistic style killers in a movie or in a horror movie. He escapes. Jim Halsey character escapes him initially. The Hitcher catches back up waving at him in a vehicle full of kids.
I always remember that scene too.
It's just a kind of a cat and mouse sort of deal throughout the entire movie. It just has a vibe to it that very few movies have. Great atmosphere in this. I'm not sure where they filmed this at. I'm guessing out west
somewhere. It's like Arizona or something. That's what it looks like. I mean, from the exterior shots and stuff, but I don't know exactly where it was filmed, but it was perfect wherever it was filmed at. But one of the great things about this movie, it's got such a simple premise, right? It's as simple a movie as any like movie. It's like Halloween. It's as simple as like the original Halloween. So you got this guy, you pick him up, you don't know anything about him. they don't know anything about him at the very end of the movie. They, you know as much about him at the beginning as you do at the end, So they picks him up, you come to find out, and probably the best part of the movie, that he's a killer, because he tells C. Thomas Howell, he's like, he's driving, right? And like, he's passing this other car that's on the side of the road, and Rutger Hauer pushes his leg down and makes him go past it. And then a little bit up the road, he's like, what was going on with those people back there? And he's like, I hope that they could get out of there. And he's like, I doubt that they could, or something like that. And he's like, why is that? Because I cut their arms off and their legs off, and I'm going to do the same.
And their head off.
Yeah, their head off, and I'm going to do the same. And then he pulls out like a switchblade, and that's where it never ever stops after that point. So he keeps escaping, and then he keeps setting him up for murders of all these different people, like police officers and people at these stores and stuff. And the John Ryder character just keeps coming after him, and he keeps getting him in all these predicaments and setting him up for all these different murders. And you just feel bad for him after a point, because he cannot get away from him, and he can't win in any way. But every time he gets picked up by the cops or anything, he gets rescued by Ryder, who then goes on fucking torture him more. There's scenes in this movie with Howard that I just think are probably the best shit he's ever done. Like the diner scene where he catches up with him and they're talking, and that's just one of the best.
Yeah, he's like, the gun's not loaded.
Yeah.
Didn't you even look?
Yeah, that's what he says too. You didn't even check, did you?
And then he pull, he does this with his hand and sticks it up to the.
Yeah, he's like, but mine is, and he puts it underneath the table and goes, boom. And then,
Now this is Rutger Hauer, man. This is his, in my opinion, this is his defining role. I couldn't imagine anybody else playing this character. And everybody that I've ever shown this movie to, my wife included, who is extremely picky, just falls in love with it. She even mentioned herself, she was like, he is a great bad guy. And I was like, yeah, he really is.
That's one of the best.
Yeah. So the Hitcher's.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, the Hitcher is amazing. The music is amazing. The atmosphere. And what pissed me off the most over the years is, as amazing as a movie as this is, Robert Harmon, and Eric Red and those guys. I've got Eric Red on fucking Facebook, right? Who's done a lot of stuff. Somebody mentioned here, Near Dark was another one that he did. This movie, I don't think ever got its justice on home video until now. And it got the deluxe treatment out the ass. And I'm very happy. I just want to say I'm very happy that Second Sight is the ones doing it.
I'll say this too, if this is a movie that you haven't seen in a long time because it wasn't on anything, because that's kind of the reason I haven't seen it in a long time, because I think I did have that DVD at one time, but I don't know what the fuck happened to it. If it's that, then it's a lot better of a movie than you remember it being. I'll guarantee you. If you go back and watch it now, it is a better movie than you even think that it is.
Beautifully made too. You can see it now. Crystal clear. And Phantasmat is asking, to me, I mean, this is hands down. I don't even think there's anything close. This it's a release. And we'll talk about, the set too. Physical media release of the year.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's mine too. I can't even, I really cannot think of another release that's really close to it. In terms of the movie, and, the fact that it finally gets released in this way, and the packaging and everything else, yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, there's tons of interviews, exclusive content, extra material on this, which, you can go and Google all that. We ain't got time to read it all, but there's a lot. There's a lot of special. I know they've got an interview with Robert Harmon for 45 minutes, a new interview with just him. And I checked that out.
Yeah. There's a cool interview with C. Thomas Howell, but I think C. Thomas Howell is like, I don't know, there's something going on with that guy. If you watch that interview, you're like, okay.
Yeah, he's a little bit out there.
But he does mention something really cool about this movie, though. Like, he worked on another movie later on with Rutger Hauer. I can't remember what it was now. It was like a little known movie. But he said, like, in the middle of that movie, Rutger Hauer did like a screening of the Hitcher for the cast and crew and like did a Q&A with him. Like, basically did like a unauthorized Q&A with, you know, C. Thomas Howell and him to the cast and crew of this other movie they were working on.
Oh, wow.
And like talked about it and all that.
How
shit.
cool would that have been if they could have recorded that?
Yeah. I mean, apparently like it's one of his favorite, or it was one of his favorite roles.
I think it's one of those movies, and we talk about these from time to time. I was just talking to Dirk. We reviewed Anguish on the Eurocrypt show and talked about that one. And it's going to happen with this one, man, because for years and years and years, it was impossible to see this movie. The DVD was from 1999. So a movie like The Hitcher is timeless. It's one of those movies that a new audience is going to latch on to. And it's going to become more and more of a cult movie for sure. But Second Sight Films did a fantastic job with this edition. I've never seen them do, which they've got a hardbound book here as well, which, Jesus, this thing is gigantic. They could blow it up. It could be a nice coffee table book.
I love the way it's made too, though, because most of the time when you get these, what do they call them, J cards?
Yeah.
They're not made like that.
Right.
They don't have like the box part that the thing sits in. They just are made like a actual J with the sides missing. And you have to figure out a way to get it to stand up and stay with your
I
shit.
want to have to get some of those Mylar protectors for some of these boxes, though.
Yeah.
Got to.
Yeah.
Especially this one. And then they also included, though, which I've never seen them do this. Maybe they have, but the entire screenplay of the movie in this other, like, soft, you know, paperback style book.
They got art cards, of course.
Art Carney didn't have one still, unfortunately. And then the discs, you know, you got a Blu-ray and a 4K in this. But yeah, man, I mean, you know, all the special features and the art cards and all that, you can look all that stuff up. And the book itself, like I said, they could have blown that book up and sold it for probably $50.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, I was extremely impressed with it, but I think I was more impressed with the movie. Like, I think I watched it 2 or 3 times. Like, I just kept it on, like, over the course of 2 days.
I don't do that very much. Like, there's nothing that really gets me hopped up hardly anymore. But this one, I couldn't not open it and watch it pretty much immediately. Yeah. Because I love Second Sight Films. I love what they do. And The Hitcher is one of my all-time favorite movies, especially one that's kind of an unsung, you know, great. I don't even know. I mean, it's definitely a horror movie, but I think it's just a great movie. Yeah,
I mean, you would classify it. It's definitely got some horror parts in it, but it's like just a legendary, dramatic thriller, really. I mean,
it's got some mean-spirited shit too, like the Jennifer Jason Leigh's demise in it. And, you know, they shoot up the police station. There's a German Shepherd eating one of the fucking officers or licking on him. They don't do that in movies anymore.
No, there's not enough German Shepherds licking on dead officers anymore.
Yeah.
But like, I love the idea behind it that really John Ryder, Rutger Hauer, wants to die. And he wants him to kill him. And that's really the plot of the whole movie, is like him trying to convince him to like make him like a man almost.
I almost get the feeling that he doesn't really even want to kill Halsey. He's like, he's just wanting him to kill him. He's wanting to get him to that. You know, he's just fucking with him.
Yeah, that's the whole thing throughout the movie.
But a real maniac. I mean, he plays it well, Rutger Hauer. The Hitcher, man, it came out. This limited edition's not going to last very long, so
no,
I'm surprised it's still in print now. I would think that would be one that would.
They must have made a shit ton of them, because I know almost everybody's got this.
So, I mean, okay, if you want the limited edition contents and everything and all the special features, I'd bite down on it now. Those books, the art cards and everything, the screenplays, I hope they continue to do that with at least some of their bigger titles. I really, really dug that a lot. So, but yeah, that is The Hitcher. It's out now from Second Sight Films. Check it out and let us know what you think of Dead Pit is Watching. This could, I mean, it's more than likely going to be a new thing for a while because we got a shit ton more movies to review in there, right, Uncle Bill?
Yeah, that's true. And doing these, you know, like single style reviews and stuff is just, we ain't gonna be able to do that because there's just too much shit. There's too much stuff,
especially this time of year too. Yeah. Jesus Christ. I know we're going to have some more stuff coming up from Kino. We're going to have some stuff from Severin Films, more than likely on the next show, some Dark Sky Select goodness. And, yeah, it's going to be fun, but we appreciate everybody tuning in. And again, give us feedback. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you think. Money in the bank. DeadPit.com. I'd like to tell people, thumbs up the video, Uncle Bill.
Would you?
Yes. Thumbs it up with violence and fury and just love everything about it.
You hit the heart button, then you hit the ass button, then you hit the go fuck yourself button. Follow that up with the I don't give a shit button.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. Do you know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
We have a literal jukebox full of songs and thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So Dead Pit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd recommend at least the $10 tier.
You can do 50. The stock market's crashing around us, folks, but send us money.